What's happening, brother man? What's happening, brother man? What's happening?
I'm blessed, man. How you doing, black man?
Man, pretty good, pretty good. Uh, if anybody watching, if y'all tune in, this is the after show conversation. We thought we had this conversation live. You
Right. I can still see the smoke coming from your head,
know
man.
what I'm
That means we
saying?
on
The
fire.
steam coming up. The
Yeah.
steam coming up. Yeah, yeah. And I'm glad we're doing this because taking a look at what could have been the technical difficulties with the echo, and as you were saying, we had that Mac issue, but
Right.
yeah, now it's crystal clear. So yeah, so we should be good. How did you feel about how did you feel about the experience?
I think the first show was fire. I think the content was great. It was very empowering. It was historical. I like how the elders was able to kind of bring us back into the past and bring us forward to the future
Mm.
and make everything fit, and so it was fire, man. Now we just got to continuously drop that kind of content.
Yeah, and that's the key. One of the things that we're trying to talk about master is that algorithm. You know what I mean? And you cannot affect social media algorithm without web content. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, you have to have something to say,
Right. Well, something to
that,
say and the time to say it.
right, right. And you
Yeah.
got to know what you're talking about too, because
This is
people
true.
can
This is true.
immediately tell if you are ignorant in regards to what you're discussing or talking about. So and that's one of the glorious things about the Shrine of the Black Madonna is that everybody, to a certain extent, can teach. I
Yeah.
was telling some brothers on another show I was a part of. I was like, man, you can't even touch our landscapers. The brothers who cut the grass
Right.
can come.
Right.
They can shoot it off the hip. The
Right.
janitors can shoot it off the hip.
Right.
And you don't even want to get into no conversation with the sisters. Because
Oh.
you wind up getting baptized.
Oh. And I'm waiting for that moment to have that high powered sister up in here. The sisters conversation. I got a series of sisters in the nation and outside the nation creating topics and dialogue that mean something to them. And one of the things that a sister said was, it will be refreshing to see black men speak in a sense of a concern, to black women and black women issues, to actually study it, understand it, know it, and come off in a conversation as though that they're looking, helping to look for solutions. You know.
That's powerful that you say that, because in a sense what we don't realize is that the black woman can recognize things about the black man that he cannot see in himself,
Mm,
and vice versa. The black man has the ability to recognize things in the black woman that she cannot see in herself.
herself.
And
Right.
both of these perspectives can be negative and positive. We see the positivity in each other and we see the negative things in each other. And a lot of times, what we are not connecting is we're not connecting the story, the history to these situations of us as a people.
Mm,
There's a reason why the black man and the black woman act a certain way. And you cannot say that that does not have anything to do with our historical basis in the diaspora. We've been, to a certain extent, programmed to look at each other
right.
in negative ways.
Right. Right.
And fortunately, because we are a strong race of people, we've been able to overcome that by looking at the positive things in us as a people. But we have to get back to black black love that is older than our slave story.
That's the key. Yeah. There was one of the things that with what you were saying, if you can see her according to how God called her to be on your behalf, this is the woman he made for you. And so seeing yourself in the creator and seeing your divine self is not complete unless you see the woman that is called to you the same way. And
Right.
that's important. That's important.
That's good. That's good. And
Yeah.
I would even further and say that the woman that God created for me, being a black man,
Hmm.
is the black woman.
That's it. That's
Yeah,
it.
let's be definitive.
Right.
The
Right.
black woman is created for the black man, and if we really get to the natural biology, the true science of it,
Wow.
it's the other way around. The black man was
Man,
created
say
for
that.
the black woman
Say that. That's
because
it.
she was here first.
That's it. Say that.
And we want to say out of our loins come forth the black woman, but really out of her womb come
Come
forth the
forth the
black
black
man.
man. Come on.
And I've never seen a black man give birth to a black
To a
woman.
black. Come on. Right. So I'm
I've,
gonna
I've
I'm gonna
seen
take you
him
out my rib,
parenting.
but I
Yeah.
can't birth no other children. What?
Right. Come on with
Yeah.
it. Come on with it,
Yeah.
man.
You can forget that. And to be able to have sisters to have, and this is what she was telling me, to have brothers who can support a sister on that level is also monumental. So having this, so even though it's the African speak and I got that lion, but man, to have that voice or that roar of the lioness, ooh, I can't wait. I
Right.
can't
Right.
wait for that experience. That's something I'm
Right.
looking
And
forward to.
for some of you guys who are tuning in, and if you're feeling left out of the loop, what we're talking about is how saturated the shrine of the Black Madonna is, the Pan African Orthodox
Mm-hmm.
Christian Church is with wisdom. And we're talking
Wow.
about how that wisdom is demonstrated in the women of the church, the
Come
women of
on.
the nation, and the men of the church, the men of the nation, to a certain level of appreciating everybody's role within the nation.
In the nation. Because we
You know,
still
when I'm in the community, and because we live as a community in the shrine
right.
of the Black Madonna, I can talk to one of the brothers who's a landscaper. His job is to be a landscaper for the shrine. He cuts
Right.
the grass.
Right.
And a 10-minute conversation is a history class
Come on. Say it.
because everybody has been through the program and everybody's well versed in Black consciousness.
67 years. I don't know how many organizations can say that they have a movement that lasted 67 years that focus on the liberation of Black people. And in order to focus on the liberation of Black people, you had to first turn Black people back to God. You had that first education to even an infant, what we say in the Kiba land, world of Kiba land, got to give a shout out, is an education under God. So when you have that awareness first, you come in contact with almost anybody that's been in there for some years, and they drop nothing but pearls, seeds that grow. You know what I mean? You can get a bushel of fruit. You know what I'm saying, from one basket and from one tree. Just
Right,
stand there with a basket and get that
right,
filled
right.
up. So being able to create this platform, and not only that, but creating that energy field. Because if we take a look at the internet, and I got one of my power pack for my headset is blinking. I gotta change my battery soon. But having that set up to a point where we have the platform that we're trying to attract like energy to continue 67 years into the future.
Right,
And
right,
that's
right.
beautiful.
And that's to say also that self-determination is the gasoline of the church. It keeps everything going. That everybody is independent when it comes to sustaining their commitment to the program. And that's something that a lot of organizations lose as the generations continue to be produced, as they lose that commitment to the program.
Right.
And one of the things that makes a organization long lasting is when you have a new generation who's willing to commit to the program, because they understand that the program is a solution-based program to their problems and their trials. And so that's what keeps an organization effective is true commitment to the program. And one of the things that we have to look at when we're analyzing 67 years of a Black theology, 67 years of a Pan-African strategic program, 67 years of Black economics and Black excellence.
Come on.
You can't get that without commitment. That means some people had to pick up their cross. Amen.
Well,
and
bear it. Right.
And bear it. And that's what self-determination is all about.
Yeah. Because everybody can't do everything. But as long as you can do what you feel you're called to do. And that's the thing, like you said, in terms of people picking up their cross, individuals have to get to a point where they feel internally in their own hearts that this is sacred to me. And this is the part that I can feel. I had one brother one day tell me, he said, after a while, everybody want to play ball, but after a while, you got to realize I'm not born to play ball. I'm not as good or athletically inclined as the next person. So even in the nation, when we talk about divine responsibility, everybody can't do the same thing.
Right.
You got to figure out, like you said, that brother cutting the grass. You want him to cut the grass because he's good at it. You want him to landscape because he's good at it. And being able to, and this is the trick that I think we have to figure out as a community, developing that transgenerational formula so that it goes from generation to generation to generation, creating a formula. And that's something that I think we haven't mastered, but we haven't dropped the ball either. We right here. We right here.
Right. And that's something we have to also recognize that's not easy.
Right.
That's not easy because when you're talking about a liberation program, it's developed due to the fact that the people have become radical and revolutionary in their actions and in their thoughts to the oppressing system.
Right.
The problem with that is that if you produce another generation, you have to make sure that that generation understands that this is a revolution. And that a liberation struggle is going on. Because one of the things that happens with Black generations over time is that we don't connect to the reality of our fathers and mothers. And so while our fathers and mothers may understand that this is a liberation, that there's a revolution going on, we are born into a reality that says America is the best thing that ever happened to Black people. Even among revolutionaries.
Now, and I'll challenge this thought. And this is why I said I'm gonna be loved to talking with you, because we won't always agree, but always disagree. But in that scenario where we talk about America being the best place, there is no other location where they had that Constitution, because we leaned on the Constitution of what America said, that every man is created equal. And without that Constitution, we couldn't put up this fight. So in other areas where it wasn't a democracy, there was nothing to stand on. You know what I'm saying? And until they made that apart, because even in the slavery, they had the Constitution, and we had to fight. We said, wait a minute, you keeping us from reading because you don't want us to understand what you're doing. And the minute we figure out what you're doing, we taking over. Now, being able to do that in this country is a good thing because of we can hold the Constitution up against the sickness of white supremacy. And that's how...
Yeah. Well, I can understand that perspective, but when I defined it, I like to deal with actuality over reality. And hear me now where I'm coming from, because realities can be manipulated and fine-tuned as an illusion to cast a spell upon people.
Right.
And it makes people think that they're looking at something that is taking place, when in actuality, what they're looking at is not taking place at all.
It's a magic trick.
For an example, when you look at the sun, we know we wake up every day and we say there's a sunrise and a sunset. That's our reality. We've even tailored our psychology to interpret it that way.
Right.
Are you understanding? So we're manipulating our own
psychology because the sun ain't rising nowhere. Right.
No.
And the sun ain't going down nowhere.
No, the sun is stationary. Right. It's not the sun that's rising or setting. It's us that is revolving around the sun. Right. But due to a lack of understanding science, a lack of understanding cosmetology, there were people who produced a culture, did not understand that, and then out of that culture comes the psychological construction of a thought that there's a sunset and a sunrise. And yet, while we know it, science has been able to prove that psychological thought wrong, we're still saying, hey, good morning, hey, good night, when there's no such thing as a good morning or a good night. Because in actuality, there's no such thing as night and day. I mean, that's how deep it is. So going back to this, America is the greatest thing that ever happened to Black people.
No, I don't say that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm saying as being 400 years of oppression, if there was no Constitution, when they came to get us, when they decided to destroy, which is way before slavery started, destroy the continent of Africa. When they came together and said, you know what, as a nation, and I wish I could, off the top of the head, I can't remember the time, but there was that moment where all the white nations came together to have a international global meeting to figure out how they're going to carve up the continent, how they're going to go infiltrate, pull it apart, and enslave. That was a long drawn out process.
That was strategic.
It was strategic. Now, what they never expected, because when they did that, if there was no Constitution of every man was created equal, it would have been hard for us to fight. Well, we would have come out straight up with straight war. I'm just tired of this. I'm tired, and you not hitting me no more. It'd have been a straight up physical war. But what the mistake of their sickness, thinking that you can hold God's people down, to put together a constitution to help govern their lives, because they never expected their constitution to govern ours. We were not even in the picture. And to have them make that crucial mistake when we were able to learn how to read, to get our awareness back of who we are, to see what did they put in their bylaws to define their social system. What are we going to use to fight against them? We're going to use their own.
Well, we was able to take their own constitution that was tailor-made and designed for them.
Right.
And use it to our benefit.
Right.
But we must understand that that's not our constitution.
No.
That's their constitution.
Right.
Because inside of that same constitution, they defined who they wanted us to be as a people.
Well,
when they said that you are worth nothing, you are 3/5 of a human being.
Man.
That's in that same constitution
that
they declare that all men are created equal.
Right.
And that's what I'm talking about, not falling for that illusion that constitution ever benefited us naturally, because we know that was not the intentions of creating that constitution. That constitution was created and constructed in order to stop them from being oppressed by their father, which is Great Britain.
Well, we got, and that, which is real. And I'm sorry, while you was talking, I was getting pinged. You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking at the pings. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whoop, there it is, right? So we got, still talking, still moving.
Yeah,
and
that's good. But I just think we have to define that concretely, that the American Constitution was not created
for us.
For Black people.
Right.
We snatched it the moment we began to learn how to read in English. Amen. Because it's not that we came here illiterate. We knew how to read.
We knew how to read. We knew how to write. We had to build kingdoms. We had that.
Yeah, that's right. We spoke several tongues. We wrote in several languages, we understood cosmology to a certain level that they did not understand.
Right.
That's how many of our ancestors was able to get to the North in America from
Exactly.
the South, because they had a science of the stars. They had an understanding of the stars. But going back to this Constitution, Frederick Douglass talked about in his autobiography that education was paramount to his liberation,
Had to be.
and that when he began to learn how to read, he began to understand that there were certain things about himself that white people did not want him to know.
Correct.
And that's how we turned that Constitution around on them and used it for our benefit,
Our benefit.
as we
Correct.
began to question them. Are all men created equal? What man are you talking about?
Right.
Because I'm a man.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? You know I'm a man, because when I lay down with a woman, I produce, and she produces people who look like me.
Right.
Is that not manly?
That man. Correct.
Is that not the nature of a human being?
Correct. Biology.
I'm
How?
capable of learning. I have the
Correct.
capability to learn and be educated in a vast amount, just the way you do. I mean, we forced the issue. Our ancestors was intelligent enough to play chess and position themselves into a space where they had to be treated equally. And we're still fighting for that today.
And talk about that. The fact that this is a chess game. This is not, and so we can talk about that ancestral chess game. But we are in the process of making moves on our chessboard, and that's why
That's right.
when we talk about the experience tonight, and we said it, we could have never stopped talking. We could have just gone on and on and on and on, because this was a intricate move for us stepping forward. This was integral, for us having this platform that looked, the looks, the graphics, Like I said, I ain't had number 3 hours sleep trying to build this particular platform so that we could use it and then master it, even with the technological issues, trying to move forward. So the chess moves today, and I think that's important, even more of important a conversation. Then not only talk about the chess moves of yesterday, but the chess moves that we have to make now, and utilizing this
Right.
technology.
I mean, it's going back to training day. Denzel said it. This chess, not checkers.
Checkers. Well, right.
Chess, not checkers. But no, we black people have to make moves in the best interest of black people only.
Correct.
And that's what's going to catapult us into a better reality in the future, is that when we begin to be about black, and maybe we need to coin that phrase, be about black, because right now the black man and the black woman has been psychologically conditioned to be about every other race but themselves.
And wait, psychologically conditioned not even to be about each other. And that's one of the key conversations to have. I mean, how important is that relationship? Because you can have a woke man and a woke woman, according to woke, in terms of that conversation we had today, that sense of awareness. But if they not together, it don't matter what we doing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't
And that's
matter.
what you're talking about, individual consciousness, right?
Yes,
Right.
It means nothing without
It doesn't
having that
benefit
relationship.
Right, right. It doesn't benefit one black man, one black woman escaping the plantation does not liberate the whole race.
Well, you can say that again.
You understand what I'm saying? We
Yes.
are in the business of liberating totally the minds of black people. That's what liberation is about. Nothing is more sacred than the liberation of a black person, or nothing is more sacred than the liberation of black people.
Black people. Well,
that's what we're about. And so you're correct. We have to understand that organization and consciousness is what we should all be about, not individual consciousness. Not putting on your dashiki and rocking your ankh, and saying I'm woke.
well,
that's not going to change anything for black people. We have to organize black people in consciousness. And that's what Steve Biko was talking about when he was developing the philosophy of black consciousness, is that it is a collective effort. It's not an individual race. It's a collective effort that's going to help us liberate ourselves from mental slavery.
Right. I'm sorry. while we talking, I'm working on this other piece where we can connect the people who are texting and logging in. So I'm doing some technical support work, but you are absolutely right. Um, and we got to get and what else in this stage of creating that new technology, that new chess move. What are the things that we can do?
Well, yeah, one of the things we have to do is you have to confront irrelevant positions that black people are in. And what I mean, and I'm trying to develop this this idea off of the game of chess. You know, the way to play
Right.
chess is to move your pieces in a way that jeopardizes your opponent's pieces. Are you
Mm.
understanding?
Okay.
And one of the things that revolutionaries do is they go back and they confront those who are not revolutionary, not with contention,
Right.
but with truths about why they should not be in that position as a black people. And as black people in the 21st century, we have to confront some of these irrelative ideologies that we have about ourselves as a people.
Right.
Are you understanding what I'm saying? And that's kind of going back to this idea of being Americans. I don't want to claim that because I know what that means. I know that America is a British colony
Right.
of European people. Are you understanding? That's the original origin. That's the origin of America. America was birthed out of genocide and chattel slavery. It doesn't matter if I've been here 400 plus years. For me to drop the history of America and then just claim it as my own nation and fall in love with it as a nation, I am still in conflict with who I am as an African. We have to understand that. I mean, is that not an oxymoron? African American? Can you be African and American at the same time?
And it's funny because we live in that duality. We are African descent, but living in a westernized American culture. And what? And I always say his name, the founder of Kwanzaa,
Malana
Karega.
Karenga.
Right.
Yeah.
He said we have to be more of the African in our American experience.
Yeah.
We
Malana
can't
Karenga.
take
Yeah.
we can't take American out of where we are, because this is it. We are our part of the diaspora we are the African diaspora in the Americas. Period.
Mm-hmm.
However, you have to be more American. I mean, more African. Sorry, more African in this American existence. Otherwise, we
Right.
won't move nowhere. We won't go nowhere. We won't connect. Now,
Right.
and understanding that African is not just culture, it's not just tradition, it's not a geological location. It's a spiritual connection.
That's right. It's a state of mind.
It's a
It's a
state
state of
of,
mind.
and
And
that's the part we got to grasp.
now
And
I
and
was
it
I was I'll go ahead. I'm sorry.
and in that experience, in those moves, you know what I mean. That's what we take a look at. You know, how are we making these moves from our level of African consciousness?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Well,
And
let me
it's
throw this at you.
go ahead.
Let me throw this at you because I love to read, and that's one of the things that I have to credit the Shrine of the Black Madonna Pan African Orthodox Christian Church with is that you have to become an vivacious reader if you're going to be here.
Right.
You know, you got to read. You got to be on your grind. You got to read, and you got to get up in the morning, and you got to read some more before you go to sleep. You got to read because we are consistently uncovering our history. And so let me throw this at you. Today I was reading a book by Dr. Amos Wilson. And in the book, Black on Black Violence, one of the things that Dr. Amos Wilson said is that Black people are not African, they are American. And what he was talking to and alluding to was the fact that we've been possessed with European culture. Are you understanding where I'm going?
Definitely.
That if we're going to ever get back to being African, we have to go through an exorcism.
Mm.
Because every
Mm.
time we speak their language. That's not the African voice. When we speak, we don't hear an African voice. We hear a
Right.
European voice
Right.
because we're speaking their language. Every time we put on clothes, we put on the uniformity of European fashion. And you have to understand that the etymology of the word fashion is
Fashion.
that's when you fashion a uniform. Oh, you
Mm-hmm.
understand? So we've been fashioned by them. When we respond to our names, now not you and I, because we've
Right.
been given African names. That's one of the benefits of being a part of an organization that is centered in African culture, is that you'll get your name back. But when I was born, I was named an English name. Because my parents, they didn't know any better. They didn't understand the importance of trying to attach this infant back to his ancestral culture.
Right.
And so, my birth name was Courtney. Are you understanding? That's European.
In
That's
itself.
European possession. My whole makeup, my whole personality is possessed by European culture.
Now, one of the things that my family did, and half my family is Muslim and half my family was Christian. And what they did to some of us at birth, and I wasn't one of them, I got my name through the community, was they gave us two names. We're going to give you an African name that helps you connect to who you are. But then we also going to give you one of those, we're going to give you the English name so that you blend in without that stigma of that African in you. But that was them playing chess. And sometimes I would ask, why they got, and I had one scenario where I had a friend, female friend, Chinese. She happened to have a baby by a brother, a professor at Morehouse. Once she had the baby, I asked myself, so what's the baby's name? And so the Chinese lady looked at me and told me the father's name, and I forget the father's name. I said, no, what the baby's name? And she said it again. She said, I named him after the father. I said, see, you got to understand that I understand what's going on in your culture. I said, your father, that child's grandfather, does not call him by the father's name. Because in Asian culture, your heritage is too important to separate that child from whence they came.
Mm-hmm.
I want you not to tell me this brother's European name because he didn't get this from his father's heritage. His father didn't give him an African name that's going to bring him back to his culture. His name was something like Leroy or something. What did the grandfather, the ancestors of your family, what did the elders name him? And she looked at me with her eyes like, wow. Because she knew I understood that they played chess.
Right.
She said,
Right.
his name is Yu Ming. And then she told me the meaning of it. She said, how did you know? I said, because I knew you coming from a deep Asian family where that is a people that believe in their culture, tradition, their heritage, and want to make sure there is now one generation that is separate from that. Will not allow you to have just that one British name. And when it is
There
time
you
for
go.
that child to come to your Asian self, you coming as Yu Ming, not Leroy.
That's
And
right.
that
And
and
that's
that
how
and that was the chess game my family played. But us as a community, we saying now like, no, we gonna give you your African name, and you
that's
going
right.
and be proud and fight with it. However, in this system, they use that they play chess too. You know what I mean?
Right, right. And you have to a certain extent, you have to play the game, but at the end of the day, you also have to understand how this produces your psychology.
Right,
And that goes back to the dualism you was talking about. You
right.
can't call me two different names and think that I'm not going to have
I'm
a
not gonna have
split
that.
person,
Well, and
because
that's the
those names are linked to a culture now, and culture
correct.
produces psychology.
Correct.
We have to understand some of the thoughts that we think they don't even belong to us as
To
a
us.
people.
Right. Right.
Somebody opened up black people's head and inserted some thoughts into our mind about ourselves that never came from us. And we are so confused because we're saying, now these are my thoughts. I keep thinking this about myself. I keep seeing myself as a nigga. I keep seeing myself as a bitch. I keep seeing myself as a thug, as a hoodlum, But did these thoughts actually come from you? Or were they systematically put inside of your society?
Right.
And so you're a product of your society. And so that's the importance of becoming culture centered. We're not just dressing in African attire. We didn't just become members of the Pan-African Orthodox Christian Church because we want to use some dark tinted paint when we paint the face of our God we call Jesus, or however people look at it. That's not what it means to be black and conscious.
Right.
It means to go back and grab and attach yourself to the psychology of your ancestors pre-colonial pre-European colonialism, pre-Arabian Arab colonialism. Are you understanding what I'm saying? And
exactly.
So it's about finding your mind. Malcolm X famously said that black people were speaking of their African descent in a derogatory way, saying, I didn't leave nothing in Africa. I'm not no African. He said, why you left your minds in Africa? And so if we even want to get our minds back and be independent from the European psychology, we got to go back to Africa. And we're not talking about physically. We're talking about spiritually and mentally.
And that was one of the good things of having Wale Olatunji talk with us today, because he was clear on that. He was like, look, if you even if you take spirituality, and one of the questions I had that I didn't get to because it was so fiery, it was how much does the spiritual awareness of who you are connect with the historical awareness, and how much interdependent is it so that you can get to your right and righteous mind? But he said, if we can get to the simple fact that we just got to be able to feed, clothe, and house, self-determination, like any other man on this planet. You feed, you clothe, you house yourselves. Self-determination. Just to get to that part.
You sounding like Coach Boone now for training, not training day. Remember the Titans, Denzel, Coach Boone.
Look at that.
That's what he told Ronnie. What was the kid named Ronnie Lyles? He told him, "I'm here to help you take back your righteous mind."
And righteous mind. Was that? No, I think that was great.
That's
great debaters.
That's Remember the Titans.
Was it? Because on the great debaters. Yeah.
No, okay, that's on Great Debaters too. That's on Great Debaters too.
Yeah,
he sure did. Yeah, he surely did.
Yeah. Your righteous and righteous.
Yeah, your righteous mind. Yeah, he told the young brother that who was trying to challenge him in the debate.
Right.
You're right.
Right. And that's real. Us reclaiming that mindset. And I usually tell people that it may not happen in one generation, because it didn't happen in one generation for us to get conditioned to the point where we support our own level of conditioning.
Right. But we got to call it out. We got to continuously call it out. Because one of the things that the system of white supremacy does not want us to do is identify what's actually going on.
Right.
They always want us to focus on the surface. They don't want us to look behind the curtain, because when we look behind the curtain, we're going to see oppression. Are you understanding what I'm saying?
Right.
They want us to only focus on the surface. They'll say, oh, well, black on black crime is out of control. It's you killing your own self. Look at how you dog out your women. Look at how you talk about your women. Look at how your man abandons the woman and abandons his child. Look at how black people destroy their own businesses. That's what they want us to focus on, but they do not want us to focus on what is behind the curtain, and that is systematic, strategic oppression that has been going on for 400 plus years.
Right.
This is why you cannot disconnect the origin of America from the progress of the black man and the black woman. It has something to do with the origin of America. And so we have to always tell the truth about American history. American history was designed to benefit the white man and enslave the black man and commit genocide against every other man.
And
that's the story of America.
completely.
We're not going to change that story in order to appease some 21st century Europeans who don't want to hear the truth about their country, about their mothers and their fathers and their grandparents and their great grandparents. We got to be able to tell that story. And the moment we allow a whitewash religion to bring us around the campfire and saying kumbaya without telling that story, because we don't want to hurt somebody's feelings and we want to be apologetic about what happened, we're doing ourselves our own disservice, and we're continuously promoting our own psychosis.
Real. One of the things I was talking to somebody with was, what would it be like? What would the generation be like to, and me dealing with a Keebaland, to have a liberated minded child from birth?
What is, tell the people, what is a Keebaland?
Well,
Some
World of
people
the
pronounce it
Keebaland, and y'all can go worldofthekeebaland.org. It is the youth development program of the Pan-African Orthodox Christian Church. It is World of the Keebaland. It is the online version of a Keebaland Academy. We're going from being a brick and mortar experience to an online experience. And we changing it from a Keebaland Academy to World of the Keebaland to embrace black children all over. So saying World of the Keebaland is like saying Pan-African. Anything.
What does the word Keebaland mean? What is that?
So
word?
it's like little Africa. It is.
Right.
It is that. It is at home. You know. And so I always talk about what would the generation look like, being able to purposely and consciously raise a child with a liberated mindset. What power could of the Creator could flow through that mind and that body?
That's revolutionary.
That's it.
That's revolutionary, because when I went to church, I went to Sunday school. I didn't go to World of Keebaland.
Right. I didn't understand how powerful.
When I went to Sunday school and I got my little Sunday school book, from a company called the Gospel Advocate, a white corporation.
Mm-hmm.
You understanding?
Yeah.
And I opened up the Sunday school book and I'm reading about these ancient people like Noah and Moses. They were all white. Yet,
it was
watch this. Yet, the theology that they were putting on my young mind was telling me that race does not matter. But the imagery, the pictorial imagery of these biblical characters were white.
Right.
So my young psychology that's still developing was telling me that these white people are the mothers and fathers of humanity. And so you ask, what would it do for a young mind to go to a black academy, a Keebaland academy? It will give them a black psychology. It will give them an unadulterated, unapologetic black outlook of their world. And that's why we need our own academies. That's why we need our own schools. It's not enough to go to a black church and go to Sunday school and get a white theology.
Do you see the question in front of you? Can you see that?
Did y'all see American Skin?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't see the movie. I didn't see it. You want? What did you think about the movie?
No. Okay. I thought she was asking, did we see American Skin? Like, did we see American Skin?
No.
I haven't. It's a movie. I heard about that movie though. I heard about that movie.
We're gonna have to go look at it so we can talk about it.
Right.
Now,
I heard about the movie though.
To get back, I had a different experience growing up. I didn't look at the color of what was going on. I was listening to the message. And in the message, what I saw, because I'm a comic book reader, I Marvel before Marvel became Marvel. And so when I heard Jesus saying, these things I can do, and even greater things will you do, you just have to have faith of a mustard seed. So I went to my grandmother and said, Grandma, do you have mustard seed? And so she gave me a little thing, and I saw how small it was. So in my head, I was walking around like, wait a minute. So you think I could be like this? I could be like this superpower hero? Yeah. And so every time I had questions, biblical questions, of course, it was, and this is where my grandmother said, she said, Mildred, there's a spirit on that boy. That boy gonna preach. That boy gonna have a word because it would wrestle. I didn't necessarily argue with the depiction of the people. I understood the spirit of God and the power in which Jesus walked in, and I heard him say, I can have that same ability, that same power, that flow of God to come through me. So I would run outside. First, then I got into the book of Acts because after the crucifixion of Jesus, I'm like, wait a minute. Where did the superhero who was trained in 12 superheroes to be superheroes? And I want to know where they were. And I went around asking everybody, what happened to the 12? What happened to the 12? Because they said Peter was able to heal people from their shadow. So I didn't even look at color. I wanted to understand that power of God that flowed through a human being. And so that part of white Jesus, black Jesus, it didn't even click. What clicked to me was I can possess the power of God. I can walk with the power of God. I can speak from the authority of God. I can change life. I stood outside and looked for the sun. And as people walked past me, I was doing this to try to get them to walk in my shadow. And I looked to see if, did I change them? Did I change them? Did they get it? And I wanted to know, wait a minute, because Paul ain't talking about the possession of the power of God in me. He wasn't talking. So, can you please tell me what happened to the 12? And for me, in Bible study, they represented the Avengers. Now I want to know what happened to the Avengers. I don't care about what this other dude talking because this dude ain't speaking to me. But according to the one who walked on water, which in my life I was able to articulate as do absolutely the impossible. Things that people can't even fathom you doing. So I never gave myself a limit. So it wasn't about, and this is sometimes how the shrine hit me. It wasn't awareness that what white folks did. It was finally a confirmation of a group of people who understood that the power of God can flow through me and I can do for my people the same way I'll call Jesus Nick Fury, the same way Jesus did. And so I wasn't wrestling with white and black. I wasn't wrestling with that issue. I was wrestling with the fact that how come somebody's not telling me how to possess the power of God that's in me? So it was a
Yeah,
difference.
yeah. That's good. That's good. But you still
I'm
have
still
because
affected.
yeah. But I'm saying because the Pentecostal church teach that. I got to keep it real now.
Yeah, well, I'm not. I wasn't in the Pentecostal church.
Yeah, you can walk in any Pentecostal church or Kojic church, and they're trying all kind of stuff. And then they're really trying to do
Now,
and imitate what they read in the scriptures. And so, to a certain extent, there is a level of self-determination where they believe that there's a connection between them and this outside entity that they call God. You have to
right,
understand. I was
right.
raised in the church, and so from the moment of my conception, my inception, I was going in and out of church. It just in there. That every
Right.
Sunday I was raised by my grandmother, so we was in there always in a church building. But here's the issue: you cannot detach culture from religion.
Right. Right. You
Religion
can't.
is a component of culture.
Right.
Religion is the child of culture. It is culture that creates religion. You see what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right. And that's
You're
what.
looking at it. You're looking and you're talking more about spirituality,
And that was.
than you
I'm saying, but that's how I started. Because
right.
now, yeah, you can't separate the two. But then, and because the part about culture for me didn't come in until college, because I wasn't about to join the church. I said, man, I'm not doing that because of what I feel I understand about
Yeah.
culture. I'm not
Yeah.
joining the Christian church either because your identity is Jesus. It doesn't resonate with me. I'm gonna
But
join. Right.
but you
I gotta.
started off. You started off with a consciousness that the average black person
Didn't
does
have.
not get.
Right.
You
Right.
understand? And that goes
Right.
back to your original question. What would a African academy, an Afrocentric academy
Right.
for children do for their minds and their evolution and thought?
Come on.
Well, you understand? And
Yeah.
that's the biggest fears of a systematic white oppressing system. Systemic racism, biggest fear is black education, not education, but black education.
Right.
Oh, you understand?
Yeah.
And so that's why you was walking around with that kind of mindset, is that you had some parents who had some kind of conception of who they were as an African people.
Wait. No. Wait. This is the problem. This is funny. This is real talk. This is funny as I don't know other doors. So when I went to school, I couldn't. When I first started, I'm going to kindergarten. I got pictures. I couldn't go to school without a white creased shirt and a big green velour bow tie. I still have it. And my mama and her aunts would just shake their heads and say, Lord, Mildred, you got you one of them Muslims. And
But she was making
everything.
you into
Right.
that.
No, but no. My mom's, and it's again, well, my mother, again, half my family's Muslim, half my family's Christian. And my mother had a different path than her older brothers and sisters. And we'll talk about that some other time. But she was more on the Christian side. But when she looked at me, and that's what they said, there's something on this boy. There's something that escapes this boy that does not connect him to the craziness that everybody's going through. I'm sitting there and I still got pictures, and I love my bow tie, and I wish I could find it, man, because I put it on, and you know what I mean. It's just how I was. But understanding that power, but getting to that part where it's a culture. It's a part of who we are. And when it get that, to tell a child who is in the inner city and there ain't nothing but violence. Man, I grew up with nothing but violence. And I had to believe going outside, I had the ability to fight my way back home every day.
Mm-hmm.
Fight my way back home every day. And if you couldn't talk to me about fight my way back home every day, I had nothing for you. And when I heard about, like you said, that spirituality. Now, growing up, I had tons of 5% of friends. And one love, if anybody from New York see this, I always give them something when I drop it. Yo, peace, God. What's up, God? One love, God. They had a weirdness, but they had no programmatic means to express it. And they still had a consciousness of self to call themselves God bodies. But they didn't have the God body behavior. And so that's why
Right.
I paused. I said, there's something missing. Because I believe I got God body. But I want to find a group that functions with that God body behavior. That's
That's
something
right.
different.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
something different.
Yeah. Because
So for
with community comes government.
right,
You know,
right,
you can't be government without community.
right.
You know, you can't get community without government. And one of the issues, again, because we're talking about, again, collective consciousness versus individual
And the
consciousness.
individual consciousness.
Individual consciousness does not have a government.
Mm.
And that's one of our issues. You know,
Wait.
as a
I need you to say that again without me making no noise, because I'm gonna loop that again.
right. Individual consciousness does not have a government. You know, and that's one of the things that I got slapped in the face with when I came to the Shrine of the Black Madonna.
Mm.
Is you got to start understanding the importance and the imperativeness of government,
That's
Kalunji.
it.
You
That's
know,
it.
I know you've been out there on your own. You know, I know you escaped your version of a plantation and got here, but here there's a government,
Right.
and the government is created to benefit you and to serve you. It's not created and benefited. It's not created to hurt you. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So no, you know, one of the first things that I kept being told when I got here is nobody's here to hurt you.
Mm.
Everybody here to help you.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So there
Right.
was something that I was vibrating that made the elders aware that we got to let this young brother know that we're here to help him. We're not here to hurt him. You see what I'm saying? That's one of the many issues that I see in young black people today who are trying to subscribe to a consciousness about their selves, their ancestral roots, is that they're not understanding that while that individual consciousness is good, you still need community because you need government,
Right.
you need organization, and you need that group experience. You see what I'm saying? That group experience is going to always help you come back to understanding it's just not about you, it's about the community. So we got to continuously understand that every revolution is organized. You don't have no
Right.
revolution if it's not organized. You don't have no revolution if the people are not functioning collectively together as one. That's what creates problems for empires. Is when insurrections, it's that the people are organized, and it's hard. It's hard to stop organized people. Are you understanding?
Right.
Because you can kill one and here comes another one. It's like ants. There's a reason why ants are so majestic, because they function as a collective body. One individual ant can't not do anything, but you put a plethora of them,
A
hundreds
mountain.
of them together.
Stand on an anthill if you want to.
Right, and you're gonna
Right.
feel their pain.
Right.
And so we have to understand that organizing around African culture and in African culture is what's going to help us liberate ourselves from mental slavery. And we cannot do that without, as you said earlier, a program.
Yeah. And one of the things, and when you were talking about how you had to feel like no one's here to hurt you, with the understanding that, and this is as a community in the approach, we are governing a program here for you to experience the power of God within, so you can do what God called you to do on behalf of the people that he called you to. So we're not trying to hurt you, but we're trying to get you to get your medicine out of you. There's a purpose that God has you for your people, and the purpose that these people have for the sick world that is governed under a Eurocentric mindset. People won't understand what real life is until the black community takes its proper place. And
That's
so
right.
I'm trying to get each individual. And I tell the kids when I'm teaching class, I tell them straight up, I don't want you to listen to me. I don't want you to do what I want you to do. I don't want you to do what your mama wants you to do. I don't want you to do what the church wants you to do. I want to get you to a point where you begin to do what God has called you to do on behalf of the people he called you to. And if I can get you to function from that spiritual energy, it doesn't matter what you endure in life, nothing can ever stop you.
That's right. That's what it's about.
That's
Becoming
it.
the you God sees.
That's
And that
it.
means see
That's it.
yourself through the eyes of your own divinity.
Yup, that's it.
And
That's
we
it.
don't see
As it
ourselves.
as it relates to your people, because you don't want that individual consciousness. You want that collective consciousness where it's a people. We're doing this. Me rising into that divine identity is on behalf of our people. Gimble said it tonight. There is nowhere you can get closer to God than by sacrifices for your life to the people that God gave. You
And
can't
that's
get
what
even
Jesus
closer.
did. Right. That's what Jesus did.
That's it. Right.
Revolutionary laid his life down for his people. And we have to get past this myth, this false interpretation of the death of somebody like Jesus
Right.
being
Right.
for atonement
Atonement.
sake. The
What did
remission
he?
of other people's sins. That's a bunch of baloney.
Yeah.
You
One of the
know,
things.
and
Yeah. I said that to change the perspective. Don't focus on what they said he died for. And one of the
right.
things coming up in the church, they said we're not dealing with the religion about Jesus. That's after his death. We're going to talk about the teachings of Jesus. And that's his words that came out his mouth. How are you going to
Right.
place words? And that's how you tell the difference. You are following the words about Jesus from somebody who never studied under him. That's why when I would go as I'm searching for the 12 superheroes that stopped after the Pentecost in the upper room. You know what I'm saying? And that's really my favorite time of the year is Pentecost, because I was like, yo, if I can get just the power, Jesus, the power of God, not Jesus himself, but the power that Jesus willed, which is the power of God. If I get the power of God in me on this day, oh, when I wake up this morning and I was a kid, I'm gonna ride my bike faster. I'm gonna do my homework better. It was in my head. It was about what level of the power of God can I possess? And for
That's right.
me, if we're gonna attract more people to this, I think they got to understand who they are. Let's not always feed them what they're coming out of. I need us to feed them what they're going to. It's an easy transition if I'm walking you into your awareness of the creator in you. And when I'm dealing with a kid, I said, how does it feel when you win your race? And they, yeah, now, what happens if you can take that feeling in everything? And in order to get there, you have to embrace your culture. In order to get there, you have to embrace your tradition. In order to get there, you have to accept who God called you to be and the people he called you
That's
to.
right.
So you can always walk in power. And one of the things I always hate in this journey is the fact that I always come across adults who live in a box. Do not put me in the box, because I'm still in my life trying to figure out what it means to walk on water. So if I tell you
That's
I
right.
could
I'm
do
just about to
something,
say that.
right,
Yeah, you're talking about both people.
that's
Both
it.
people versus open walking people. Yeah.
No,
That's
right.
the issue. They live in a box because they are afraid to leave the
The
boat and
boat.
walk on water.
Woo! Say that
Oh,
again
you
without me
understand?
saying nothing, because I'm going to repoint
Yeah,
that
yeah,
too.
man, yeah. I was teaching that for a while, man. When I was going through my transition, that's what I began to understand about us, is that we didn't have faith in ourselves.
Right.
And that's due to the psychology of atonement, because that's an ideology, that's a philosophy that says from the very conception of your birth,
Mm,
you were in sin, you were not good enough. Are you understanding?
mm.
And it was something that was genetic about you. That it was something that was passed on to you, was passed on to you by your forefathers and your foremothers, that they passed to you a unrighteous filthiness about your spirit, and that somebody needed to die for you. So that there is a importance about understanding the psychology behind that kind of philosophy, because it gives a person an excuse to be sorry. It gives a person an excuse to not give it their all, because I'm already born in sin. Are
Right.
you understanding what I'm saying?
Right.
Somebody got to fix this. I can't fix it on my own. That's the psychology behind that kind of philosophy. When you come from the basis of that atonement theology, it produces a mental state. You was talking about earlier accessing the power of God. The power of God is a state of mind.
Right.
States of minds come. A mind is the engine of thoughts. Thoughts produce states because thoughts are energy. Thoughts create energy. It feels good when somebody say, boy, you look good today. You sound good today. You did an excellent job. Why does it feel good? Because when they say it, I hear it, I produce it as a thought, and that thought gives me an energy. Are you understanding?
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, the science behind accessing the power of God is all based upon how you see yourself, what you think about yourself. And
Right.
if you don't think things about yourself, you see what I'm saying? Things that go beyond your own voice, things that were sketched in stone about you before you even got here. Somebody already wrote a story on how cold you were, how godly and divine you were. That's it surpassed me. Now it's in the universe. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How good I am. That's what our ancestors gave to us, and that's what was taken from us. And so it is extremely imperative that we go back and reclaim that, because our stories are not just written on paper, on papyrus.
Right.
It's not just written in the Bible. Our stories are sketched in stone about our inner divinity and how not only are we accessing the power of God, we are the power of God. And if we can walk in that, there's nothing that we cannot do. So that goes back to, the literalization of some of the myths you was talking about. Jesus talking about, if you have the faith of a mustard seed, you can speak to a mountain, and you can cast this mountain into the ocean. You can speak to a rock and you can get water from a rock. You can take what is not enough and make it more than enough. All of that is about understanding the inner divinity in you. It's parabolistic in nature. It's mythology in nature, but what's underneath the story?
Right.
What's underneath the story is the mystery of who you are as a person, who you are as a people, that you are divine. And as you were saying earlier, how we created not just culture, but that culture allowed us to create nations that reflected the God in us.
The God in
And
us.
so, yeah, I agree that's what self-determination is about. It's about bringing your best self forth. And that person is inside of you. That's not something that is outside of you. And you're not going to get that by catering to a psychology that says that you were condemned from the very conception of your birth.
And that's true. And it's funny because there are certain things, and I don't know, maybe when you talk about um divine intervention, where and as we talk, there's only certain things I can look at because my grandmama was churchy, super churchy. My mama said, because my mama forced me to go to church, I'm not gonna force y'all. When y'all have questions, I'll come up with the answers. If you want to come to church with me on Sunday, you come. But at my grandma's house, no, you got up, you got dressed, you was ready and waiting in the living room before she even walked. If she got to that living room and you wasn't dressed, she got mad. I never got to that point where I accepted that curse seed. You know what I'm saying? And so there's certain things in divine intervention, because I'm a part of that, and even in my counseling within the nation, she said, you grew up believing that all was possible for you. I said, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She said, so receiving this, we didn't have to undo years of conditioning in terms of you feeling bad behind your skin. We just had to, you found something that agreed with who you are. Because we do have those individuals who walk around feeling like, I know, regardless of what you're saying and what's out there, I'm greater than what you say. And to be able to access at that is nothing wrong. Have you ever thought you were more powerful than what the world is telling you? And that's where it starts. It starts at sometimes that, have you ever thought you were more powerful than what the world was telling you? Because every now and then that divine intervention creeps up in the individual, says, I know I'm greater than this. And to be able to start there, I see a emblance of a fruit hanging off your tree in your belief that you know you something greater, but nothing around you tells you are. But there's something in you that is whispered to you that because there is in the Willie Lynch letter, it said the only way we can lose control of this psychology if there was a divine intervention of God where they were able to get a glimpse of who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Other than
Mm-hmm.
that, it would be perpetuated for perpetuity. And so some of us out here don't accept what's happening. However, we look for that state where they're going to, that program that's going to lead me down that road to understand my divine identity. I don't
That's
get
right.
my
That's
identity from you. I get it from God. And I'll say, in my situation, my dad left when I was 7. No father. But when he left, he sat me on his lap and said, look, you the man of the house. I need you to be a man. So at 7 years old, when he hit that door and that door closed and he wasn't there, I stood in that living room with tears, wiping my tears and saying, now, what does it mean to man up? What
mm-hmm.
does that mean to man up? And approaching the sisters, what does that mean to woman up? If I was a sister, what does that mean to be a black woman? And how would God, in terms of seeing my eyes through my creator, do you really think God sees you as being cursed? It never sat in my belly.
No, and it shouldn't be, because
Right.
it's against your nature.
It is.
How are you going to have a divine nature with a condemned spirit? It doesn't go.
Say that.
You see what I'm saying?
Say that.
It's erroneous. It's problematic in thinking and in your psychology, and that's what we're trying to overcome. And so, like you say, it's so beneficial to have a program that keeps you that daily reminds you of your inner divinity through the practice of self-determination. Make it happen. I tell my little girl all the time, we have a 4-year-old little girl named Annalise Fish. And one of the things that she goes through as she's developing and her psychology is maturing is that she's consistently confronted with failure daily. We don't see that when we're looking at children, but children have to fail daily in order to learn how to do something. She still at times struggles to put on her shoes because she can be so anxious to get things done. She'll put her shoes on the wrong foot, and I have to tell her, go back. No, put your shoes on the right foot. And she gets aggravated and agitated. And I said, no. You're gonna have to learn how to master putting your shoes on by yourself. If you say you're a big girl, because she always trying to remind me she's a big girl.
She's a big girl. I'm a big girl, Daddy.
You have to master putting on your shoes and tying your shoes. That's a process of having to go have to learn something through trial and error. And that's what I'm talking about when I say failure. Error is going to consistently come up. We have to learn how to eat that and consume that as adults and say, that does not mean I'm no good.
Right.
That means that I'm trying. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm trying. And so we have to consistently push ourselves if we're going to discover more and more about that inner divinity. And so going back to you talking about accessing the power of God, you said something that really blew my mind. You said that you were saying, okay, if I can access the power of God, I'm going to ride my bike faster.
And wait, watch this. This is my childhood. I'm on my father's 10-speed bike, and I'm riding in a neighborhood my mother tells me not to go. In that neighborhood, when I'm riding that area, there were 2 large German shepherds loose. And I'm sitting there and I'm riding, and these dogs are barking, and they running me down. And I sit down and I get that. I learn how to switch the gears to go from ooh, and then you get that and you get that grind, and I'm flying. And I'm starting to lose the dogs, but they not stopping running. Because I took the bike apart and put it back together to see how a bike worked, the chain comes off. And now I'm trying to figure out how to put my feet on top of the top bar and coast until I can get maybe further enough where these dogs don't eat me. By the grace of God, divine intervention, 2 guys on mopeds come right past me. When they went past me, the German shepherds turned to chase them. I instantly jumped off the bike, swoop, upside down, and I could have been like 8, 9 years old. And I remember this. I shook the chain, that sucker popped on, threw it back over, jumped on, and I got it. When I tell you, my concept of using God power through every situation, for me, was absolutely real. I had to figure out, I want to conquer the world, but I cannot conquer it without having the faith of a mustard seed. I said, I'm going to walk on water.
Earlier, when you know that you're capable of something, all you have to do now is gain the ability.
That's it.
And you gain the ability through thought first, not through trial and error. What comes first is thought.
That's how. What are you thinking about you? Right.
That's right. The processing of that action is what creates the action. Nobody just does anything without first, even if it's a rapid thought. You see what I'm saying? It's happening. I mean, it's happening faster than the sound of light.
Right.
That's how quickly the brain can compute things. You see what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
what it brought to my mind when you said that, again, I'm a movie buff, and one of my favorite movies is The Matrix,
Love it.
and there was a scene in The Matrix where the brother Neo, Keanu Reeves, he didn't escape the Matrix. Now he's in the real world, and he's back into this simulation program with Morpheus, and Morpheus is training Neo, and Neo was lacking behind in his ability to perform because of his thinking.
Right.
And Morpheus corrected him. Morpheus said,
Is
"Don't
that
think
and you breathing? Does
that's
anything?
right.
Yeah. I was about to pull it up because I use it as a key lesson with the kids.
Yeah,
It's
Well,
how you
pull it
think.
up. Yeah, because it was all about his thinking. Morpheus told him, "Hit me. Don't try to hit me. Just hit
Hit
me.
me.
Don't think that you're faster. Know you're
Know it.
faster." All of that is a process of thought. And so once he was able to think it without even thinking about it, and I know that sounds crazy, right? Thinking without thinking about it. And what I mean is thinking it and knowing it about yourself and not doubting yourself in the process of your thinking.
Exactly.
He was able to do it just like that. And that's what I mean when we're talking about manifesting your own realities, manipulating your own world. We have that capability, but you have to access that through your inner divinity. And that's one of the many things that you'll find among the people in the Shrine of the Black Madonna. A lot of people are processing, the God in them, and they're manifesting new realities for themselves.
And that's a part of what attracted me. I'm gonna be a part of a group of people who thinks the same thing, that there's nothing about what we do is impossible. I'm not the only superhero. I mean, I'm going to access the power of God the same way the person next to me is accessing the power of God. And Olatunji said it after we got off the air. He said, "Iron sharpens iron," and that's understandable. When you come across a group of people who believe that there is nothing I can't do when it comes to the liberation of Black people. I had a conversation today with a sister, and I said, my passion is the liberation of Black people. My purpose in it is to access every tool that God placed in me to utilize for the liberation of Black people. And whatever that is, I'm going to figure out how to master, because I need to cross over to that realm where I am the fullness of everything that God called me to be. I don't want to cross over to have a conversation with my ancestors to then get to meet who I was supposed to be. I'd rather introduce that person to myself now.
That's right. That's right.
And that Neo part is funny because my daughter's mother always tells my daughter, your father doesn't know he's small. He don't know he 5'7", and back then I was like a buck 30. I'm like 160 now, right? So I think I'm Diesel. She said he doesn't know he's not 7 foot. It's not how he thinks. It's not how his mind processes how he sees himself. And I think that telling people, how should you see yourself? Do you see yourself, or asking the question, do you see yourself the way that God called you, or do you see yourself the way your oppressor defines you?
That's
and having
right.
them ask that question. Because I want you to see yourself through the eyes of the Creator. And if the Creator doesn't make a mistake, that's the one thing that the Creator can't do, is make a mistake. Then how do you get to your level of perfection? Let us get you there. And believe that everything that we go through is out of love to get you to that experience. And that's what the nation has done, is it's allowed me to be around a group of people who believe that. And even in that journey, we may come across individuals who plateau. They plateau. And that's not because they can't grow, that's because that there's another block and there's a level of deeper that they got to go into. One of the things in African cosmology, when you talk about increasing who you are, we say in the Western world, leveling up. I got to level up. But in African cosmology, they don't talk about leveling up. They talk about going deeper.
Yeah.
We're going
way
deeper.
down we go.
We going
That's right.
down. And I
Yeah.
said, when I understood that, I was like, ooh. So you trying to tell
Hmm.
me the deeper I get within me, the more powerful I'll find out who I am and what I can do. Ooh.
Yeah,
Forget
that because there's
leveling up.
dimensions.
Yeah,
There's dimensions about yourself that we
that's
don't
it.
understand. We can't see with the naked eye all the time, but they're
Right.
there. They're there, and if we can access the different dimensions of self, then we
Mm,
can come back and we can manifest things about our world that other people can't see
can't do it.
for us. But
Exactly.
that is what I say. We must see it for ourselves.
That's it. That's it.
And so, man, this has been a beautiful conversation,
Woo!
man. We're gonna continue to rock.
Definitely.
Uh, I think we came up on some great thoughts that we need to kind of coin.
Yes.
Here at the Town of the Black Madonna, we're boat people.
Yes.
No, we're
No,
not
we're
boat
not. We're
people.
not boat
Yeah,
people. Yeah,
we're
we're
not
not
boat
boat.
people.
I'm not in the
We
boat.
right. We're water walking
We're
people.
water walkers. Right.
Yeah,
We water
yeah. So I
walkers.
meant to say we're not boat
Yeah.
people, and we got to get out of that boat thinking because
That's
that's what's
it.
getting us in
That's
trouble.
it. That's yeah. Without you knowing it, you in the boat drowning. Mm.
Right.
You in the boat, but you the one drowning. I'm on the water, not in it. I'm on the water, living.
That's right. That's a
Mm.
saying that you have to participate in your own rescue. You have to
Mm.
participate in your own salvation. Nobody can do it for you. And unfortunately, one of the things that we don't get when we don't recognize that inner divinity
Right.
is we don't get that we are the writers of our own story. We hold the pen. Write your own story.
Right.
That's what self-determination is about. That's what best self theology is about. You have to write your own story. And nobody can tell you who you are by just reading a chapter of your life's book. How you gonna tell me who I am
Right.
and you only read chapter 1 about me? You ain't seen chapter 10. I'm a beast in chapter 10.
Mm.
I'm a God man in
Mm.
chapter 10.
Mm.
You read chapter 1 when I was in slavery, when they imprisoned me. You see what I'm saying? When they threw me down to the dungeons, that's the chapter you read. You ain't read the chapter when I'm living in the king's palace. You
Mm.
know, and so we got to understand that as a process we go through from the pit to the palace, and that's where we are going. So man, I appreciate you. You dropped a lot of knowledge. I got to go and digest this and come back
Me
stronger
too.
in the morning.
Yeah, definitely. So now as we close, me and you, how do you want to go about continuing? Is this again tomorrow night, 7:30, just a conversation?
Yeah, I think anytime God gives us a word, we got to air it out. We
Got you.
don't want to be Jeremiah. We don't want it to become fire shut up in my
In our
bones
bones.
because
I can't.
that leads to self denigration.
After it speaks. That'll be good.
Hmm.
So all right. So be blessed. Sleep
All
well.
right.
And I
Yes,
I
sir.
see you tomorrow, black man.
Yeah. Nothing is more sacred than the liberation of
Liberation.
black people.
And there's no institution better than the Pan African Orthodox Christian Church.
Let it be known.
One love.
One.